Number 1.
I grew up in rural Michigan, and I rode the bus to school every morning. We lived in a house at the bottom of the hill, but my bus stop, it was at the top of the hill after you passed my house. The story I'm about to tell you happened to me when I was around 7 or 8 years old. I woke up one morning and got ready for school like I usually did. My bus picked me up around 7 a.m, right when the sun was starting to come up a little, but there were still spots of darkness in the woods. I was the only kid who was picked up at this stop, so I would stand at the edge of the woods and wait until my bus came. My mum or dad, they would have to drop me off 5 minutes before the bus came, then hightail it back to work. It's not that they felt completely comfortable doing this, but they had no choice. We lived in a safe area, or so we thought, and the bus arrived 99% of the time on time, so they weren't too worried that anything would happen to me in those 5 minutes. So I'm standing there, cold as shit, waiting on the bus to come, watching the sun rise slowly in the sky. It's still a little dark out, but bright enough so that you could see what's around you. I saw the lights of the bus come in the distance, on time as usual, and it came right to a stop in front of me. My bus driver, Mrs. Teresa, opened the door, said good morning, and gestured me to hop on. I walked to my seat, put my stuff down, but we hadn't moved yet. Mrs. Teresa still hadn't closed the door, and she just sat there, leaning out and trying to see what was in the woods. After a good minute or so, we were off on our way back to school. Arriving at school, Mrs. Teresa escorted us in. Now, she never did this, but I didn't pay any attention. She slipped off into the office though and started talking to one of the secretaries. I went through my regular day of school and was picked up by my dad. This was normal. But when he picked me up, he asked me all kinds of random questions. Bus pick you up okay? And did any cars stop or blow the horn at you as you waited? Strange questions like that. That next morning, my parents didn't take me to the bus stop. Mum dropped me off at school and just went into work later. This continued, alternating between Mum and Dad, for the remainder of the school year. At the same time, they had changed my bus stop. Years later, I found out why all this happened. When Mrs. Teresa picked me up that morning, she saw a man standing in the woods, staring at me. She alerted the school secretary, who alerted the transportation office, who then alerted the police. The police, they investigated and found some items wrapped up in a t-shirt in the back of the woods. A hunting knife, rope, a rag or washcloth, and some tape. The police, they never found out who it belonged to, but my bus driver, my parents, and the police, they all felt certain that whoever it was, they had the worst intentions, and probably for me. I think about this often and wonder what would have happened if my bus driver was a few minutes late, or she hadn't even noticed the man standing in the woods. Because of this incident, the school district changed my bus stop, and it was located right in front of my house now. That way, I could just stay in the house and wait until the bus pulled up. No more standing by the woods for me, I guess. I resumed riding the bus the next year. And creepy bus stop man, let's not meet. And thanks, Mrs. Teresa, for probably saving my life.
Number 2.
This happened to me when I was around 9 years old. I was raised by a single mother, and she was quite strict. Raised with an iron fist and all that. But she gets vicious when someone tries to hurt me. This story takes place near where I live, in a bus stop. Me and my mother, we were supposed to go to the local mall to buy a few things. I wasn't separated from my mum to say, but she was having a phone call a little away from me. I was just doing what kids do, and nothing in particular, just walking around. I am quite aware of my surroundings, always will be, and always have been. While I was just minding my own business, I could see a man approaching me. Due to the fact that I lived in a city, this was kind of normal. And since the city had the name opiate capital of Europe. Mum always talked about dangerous people and stuff. This man looked like a regular college student. He had a black coat, jeans, and some kind of briefcase. He started addressing me, asking if I like dogs. I'm quite surprised, and I don't really say anything. I just stand and look at him. He continues to talk and asks me if I would like some treats, and if I would like to see his dog. Cliche, I know. He talks with me some more about some things, and I don't even remember at this point. I'm standing still and not saying anything. I'm quite scared, and the man, he can probably tell this, so I guess he thought it was make or break. He grabbed my hand and started pulling me away. Now, my body, it gave me the immediate signal I think anybody else would have. And I started screaming like a banshee. Of course, my mother runs over and grabs my other hand and starts screaming, calls him a rapist, and then just starts hitting him. At this point, I'm crying, and the commotion we caused, it attracted some random men. My mother informs them that this guy wanted to take me away. These guys started smashing his face in, and when the cops arrived, they took him away. This story always reminds me to never take life for granted. Had things gone differently, I could have ended up in some sort of a rape dungeon or 6 feet under.